Hey everybody, it's Lone Wolf, and welcome to episode 3 of my Cryptids of America series. If you're just joining us, this is a series where I cover the 50 most unique cryptids reported in each of the 50 United States. Tonight we will be looking at the cryptids of Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, and Indiana. A link to the Cryptids of America playlist will be provided in the description for those of you who haven't watched the previous 2 episodes yet. With all that being said, let's get on to tonight's creatures. So, you remember in my last episode how Champy is the Loch Ness Monster of the US? Well, it turns out that America has a few aquatic monsters to show for itself, including Chessie. Chessie is the name of a creature that is rumored to live in the Chesapeake Bay off the coast of Maryland and Virginia. The creature is often described as having a serpent-like body roughly 25 to 40 feet in length, with smooth, blackish-green skin, and that it swims through the bay by using its body as a sine curve, similar to modern-day snakes. Chessie was first spotted by humans in the 1930s, when a helicopter pilot recalled seeing a large reptilian creature thrashing around in the Bush River in 1936. A Maryland newspaper called the Baltimore Sun wrote an article about the encounter, which triggered a string of similar reports of the monster, including a 1943 report by 2 fishermen named Francis Clareman and Edward J. Ward, who claimed to see a similar-looking creature in the waters near Baltimore. The 2 fishermen described the creature as having black skin and a horse-like head that was the size of a football, and that it turned its head almost completely around its neck. Following this particular sighting, the Chesapeake Bay Oyster Packing Company started using the creature as its mascot, and ended up calling the creature Chessie. Following the string of reports in the 30s and 40s, sightings of Chessie began to taper off, until a barrage of sightings began surfacing in the 1980s. In 1980, a group of guests from the Olmsted Estate dock reported seeing 3 dark, smooth, almost triangular-looking humps while out on the Magothy River. Similar sightings were also reported that year in the Prospect Bay section of Eastern Bay and near the Bay Bridge Tunnel in Virginia Beach. In 1982, a group of motorists crossing the Chesapeake Bay Bridge claimed to see a creature resembling Chessie, which in turn brought about similar reports from officers of the Navy and Coast Guard, as well as FBI and CIA agents. One of the most iconic sightings of Chessie occurred on Memorial Day in 1982, when a couple named Robert and Karen Frew apparently caught the creature on video near Kent Island. The video shows a brown object moving side to side through the water, almost like a snake. The last known sighting of Chessie took place off the coast of Fort Smallwood State Park in 1997, and there have been no new reports of the creature since then. Today, many people continue to share stories of Chessie and debate about whether or not the creature actually existed. Similar to New York's Champy, believers frequently turn toward the plesiosaur theory, which suggests that Chessie may be a living plesiosaurus, an extinct species of aquatic reptile that lived at the same time as the dinosaurs. Contrariwise, skeptics believe that Chessie is merely a figment of people's imagination, possibly inspired by Scotland's Loch Ness Monster. Many skeptics, therefore, dismiss any sightings of the creature as a misidentified animal, such as a snake or eel, or a large piece of driftwood. This theory is greatly reinforced by a sighting of Chessie in 1980, which later turned out to be a misidentified manatee. The manatee was later captured and brought back to Florida in October of 1994, but that didn't stop locals from nicknaming the manatee Chessie. This particular encounter wasn't a complete letdown, however, as Chessie the manatee became an icon for manatee conservation in the USA. Since this encounter, the legend of Chessie has served as a great symbol for conservation and environmental awareness, with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service even featuring the creature on some of its conservation posters. Maryland especially uses Chessie's story to help advocate for clean water in the Chesapeake Bay. Chessie's image has been used for more commercial purposes as well, including the aforementioned Oyster Company using the creature as its mascot, and Chessie being featured in the trading card game MetaZoo, Cryptid Nation. Moreover, Chessie's legend is quite popular in Maryland amongst those looking for a good spook, and is one of the more popular sea monster stories that America has to show off. The state of Virginia is another important state in American history. It is one of the 13 original American colonies and is one of the 2 states that borders the District of Columbia, better known as Washington, D.C., America's capital. Among the many paranormal stories told in Virginia, one of the more interesting tales is that of the Snallygaster. The Snallygaster is described as a dragon-like creature with both bird and reptilian traits. It is said to have a metallic beak with razor-sharp teeth, a large wingspan, and only one eye in some accounts. The Snallygaster has been seen in multiple different states on the eastern coast over the years, but most of its folklore originates in Virginia and Maryland. The legend of the Snallygaster begins in the 1730s, when the Blue Ridge Mountains were settled by German immigrants. During that time, the Germans were regularly terrorized by a dragon-like creature that they named Snallygaster, which is German for quick spirit. It was known to swoop down from the sky and take away livestock and children, sometimes draining the victims of their blood. The Germans believed that 7-pointed stars could keep the creature away, and many local barns in Maryland and Virginia today still have stars painted on them. As the years passed, the original German legends mixed with Appalachian and American folklore, ultimately creating the creature that we now know as the Snallygaster. Following the German occupation of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the creature mostly thrived in folklore and local legends, although it was believed to have been used as a way to frighten freed slaves in the 1800s. The Snallygaster gained a great deal of attention in February and March of 1909, when reports began surfacing of locals coming across the ferocious creature. Newspapers described the beast as having a long beak, huge wings, claws like steel hooks, an eye in the middle of its head, and a scream like a train whistle. The creature was even described as looking like a cross between a tiger and a vampire. Comparing the Snallygaster to a vampire proved to be a rather accurate depiction, as one particular account from February of 1909 described the creature catching a man named Bill Gifferson, biting his jugular, and sucking every last drop of blood from his body before dropping it along a nearby hillside. News of the creature spread all across the country, to the point where the Smithsonian Institution offered a reward to anyone who brought them the Snallygaster's hide. At one point, President Theodore Roosevelt even mentioned postponing an international trip so he could personally hunt for the creature. In February and March, reports of the Snallygaster began surfacing not just in Virginia and Maryland, but in neighboring states as well. Strange footprints that apparently belonged to the beast were discovered in New Jersey after a snowstorm. In West Virginia, the Snallygaster was seen several times, once almost snatching a woman near Scrabble, another time sleeping in farmer Alex Crow's barn, and a third time laying a barrel-sized egg near Sharpsburg. In Ohio, a man from Casstown came forward about seeing a creature with large wings, a large horny head, and a 20-foot-long tail flying over his neighborhood and making horrifying screeching sounds. The Snallygaster was first spotted in Maryland, specifically in Frederick County, when a man who operated a brick-burning kiln near the town of Cumberland found it sleeping near the kiln's outlet, apparently trying to cool its wings. When the creature woke up, it emitted an ear-piercing screech and flew away. The creature was spotted several more times in Maryland after that, and was apparently seen laying another large egg in the mountains between Burkittsville and Gapland, this one big enough to hatch an elephant. One of the last sightings of the Snallygaster took place in Carroll County, Maryland in March of 1909, where a trio of men fought the beast outside of a railroad station for almost an hour and a half before chasing it into the forest. Following March of 1909, the Snallygaster disappeared and wasn't seen again until 1932, when witnesses claimed to see it flying over Washington County, Maryland. This creature was said to be as large as a blimp, with arms resembling octopus tentacles. This led people to believe that the Snallygaster was capable of shapeshifting, or that this creature was the offspring of the 1909 creature, possibly coming from one of the eggs it laid. The Snallygaster eventually met its end while flying near Frog Hollow in Washington County, when it caught the smell of a large vat containing 2,500 gallons of moonshine. When the creature flew over the vat, it was apparently overcome by the fumes and fell in, quickly killed by the boiling alcohol. Two revenue agents named George Danforth and Charles Cushwa arrived soon after, where they lit 500 pounds of dynamite under the vat, destroying the vat and the monster's corpse. Since the Snallygaster's reported demise, the creature has obtained a great deal of infamy. Its legend remains popular in local folklore, and in 2008, a local author named Patrick Boyton wrote a book about the creature's history, titled Snallygaster, The Lost Legend of Frederick County. Ancient folklore has also pitted the Snallygaster against another cryptid, named Dwayyo, a bipedal werewolf-like creature. This is mainly reinforced by a string of Dwayyo sightings in West Middletown and Wolfsville, Maryland, around the same time the Snallygaster was at large. Some ancient stories even depict the two creatures getting into vicious fights with one another. Today, the Snallygaster is celebrated in the form of various local events and establishments in Virginia and Maryland, such as breweries themed after the creature and the Snallygaster Beer Festival in Washington, D.C. The creature has also made appearances in video games, such as Fallout 76, which is set in Appalachia, as well as in TV shows and cryptid documentaries, such as Mountain Monsters. In addition, cryptozoologist Mary Cooper regularly visits festivals and conventions throughout America as of 2021 to share the stories of the Snallygaster, in her own version of a Snallygaster museum. Now, based on the stories we've covered so far in this series, I think it's safe to say that America has quite a few interesting paranormal monsters to show for itself, and over in the state of West Virginia is one of the most infamous creatures ever to be seen in the USA, the one and only Mothman. Mothman is described as a human-like creature about 6 to 7 feet in height, with a dark body, glowing red eyes, and large wings over 10 feet in length. It is known to glide silently through the air, and has been rumored to disappear instantaneously if it pleases. Despite its name, the creature has nothing moth-like about it, and is similar in size and appearance to the Owl Man of England. This legend first originated in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and remains today one of the most well-known cryptids in America. The very first sighting of Mothman took place on November 12, 1966. On that day, a group of men were burying a coffin in a cemetery when they saw a strange humanoid creature with brown wings taking off from the nearby trees. The creature was spotted again just 3 days later on November 15th. This particular sighting occurred near the West Virginia Ordnance Works, an abandoned munitions depot north of Point Pleasant. The depot is widely known as the TNT area due to its manufacturing of ammunition and dynamite during its years of operation. The area surrounding the depot is mostly forested, along with some grassy fields, concrete domes known as igloos that were used to store gunpowder, and abandoned tunnels that are mostly inaccessible due to collapse and flooding. Around midnight of November 15th, two couples were driving down a dark road near the TNT area when they came across a strange winged creature looking at them from the shadows. The couples quickly drove away from the creature, but it pursued them all the way to Point Pleasant city limits, going as fast as 100 miles per hour. When they reached the city limits, the creature had disappeared, so the couples decided to go back to the TNT area to confirm if what they saw was something paranormal. When they got onto Route 62, however, the being was there, apparently waiting for them. When the car's headlights shone on the creature, it shot up into the air at lightning speed and vanished. The couples told the police what they experienced, and the local press quickly began reporting on the creature. This ultimately led to the creature gaining lots of media attention, as more and more people began coming forward with their own strange encounters. It was around this time that the being was officially dubbed Mothman, due to its similarities with Killer Moth, a villain from DC's Batman comics. For the next 13 months following these two sightings, over 100 sightings of Mothman were reported in Point Pleasant, as well as in some neighboring states. Some alien enthusiasts viewed Mothman as an extraterrestrial, or even a time-traveling being, and consequently linked it to encounters with men in black that were also being reported around this time, who apparently threatened Mothman witnesses to keep quiet about what they had seen. Sightings of Mothman persisted until December 15, 1967, when the Silver Bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Canaga, Ohio, collapsed into the Ohio River, killing 46 people. Following the tragedy, sightings of Mothman abruptly stopped, which caused people to suspect that the creature was a supernatural warning of impending disasters. This led to similar claims being reported in other parts of the country, including an alleged sighting of a Mothman-like creature in New York City shortly before the tragic terrorist attack of 9/11. There's a great deal of controversy surrounding Mothman's legitimacy. Paranormal enthusiasts often view Mothman as either an alien or demon of some sort, or that it's the result of a curse. Almost 2 centuries before Mothman was sighted, a Shawnee chief named Chief Cornstalk was murdered by colonists on November 10, 1777. It is believed that the chief placed a curse on Point Pleasant shortly before his death, a curse that came in the form of Mothman. Skeptics, however, believe that the creature was nothing more than a misidentified bird, most likely either a sandhill crane, which has a 7-foot wingspan and red markings around its eyes, or an owl, whose eyes glow with reflected light. Other skeptics believe that the creature is the result of mass hysteria, brought about by local legends over-embellished by the media. Despite the controversy, West Virginia has come to embrace the legend of Mothman as one of its most popular bedtime stories. In 1975, a journalist named John Keel wrote a book about Mothman, titled The Mothman Prophecies, which would later be adapted into a movie of the same name in 2002, starring Richard Gere. Today, Point Pleasant boasts a Mothman museum, containing various newspaper cuttings, posters, and various forms of merchandise in the creature's image. In 2002, Point Pleasant also hosted its first Mothman Festival, a festival that continues to be held on the 3rd weekend of September. Guests can enjoy live music, good food, various events for all ages, and marvel at the nearby 12-foot-tall Mothman statue, created by sculptor Bob Roach in 2003. Mothman has made appearances in various TV shows, comics, and video games as well. One particular example that is very near and dear to me is Mothman being featured in Minecraft's Creepypasta mod and Critters and Cryptids mod, which, fun fact, is actually how I got into creepypastas in the first place. I had never heard of creepypastas or Mothman at that point in my life, so I assumed that it was just a character created solely for Minecraft. How wrong I was. The story of the Loveland Frogmen is one of the more unique supernatural tales told in Ohio. I'm sure all you amphibian lovers out there will enjoy it. These creatures are often described as humanoid figures, about 3 to 4 feet tall and weighing 50 to 75 pounds, with greenish-gray leathery skin, webbed hands and feet, bulging frog-like eyes, and a strong, unpleasant smell. In some accounts, the creatures are also seen holding wand-like sticks that shoot sparks from the tip, adding a sci-fi element to the legends. The creatures were seen on 4 separate occasions, either in the small town of Loveland, Ohio, or in other surrounding areas. The first reported sighting of the Loveland Frogmen took place in May of 1955. Around 3:30 a.m. one night, a businessman named Robert Honeycutt was driving down a deserted road that runs along the Miami River through Claremont County when he caught sight of 3 upright figures standing on the side of the road. He described the figures as 3 to 4 feet tall, with leathery skin, webbed hands and feet, and distinctly frog-like heads. Honeycutt observed the figures for approximately 3 minutes, but just as he was about to drive past them, one of the figures turned towards the car and raised a wand-like stick above its head. Sparks shot out from the end of the stick, causing Honeycutt to quickly drive away. The next 2 encounters occurred 17 years later, in 1972. Around 1 a.m. on March 3rd, an anonymous police officer was slowly driving down Riverside Road toward Loveland when he saw what he thought was a dog standing by the curb. Suddenly, the figure darted toward the middle of the street, forcing the officer to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting it. Once his car headlights shone on the figure, the officer realized it wasn't a dog, but rather a large frog-like creature in a crouched position. The creature then stood up on its hind legs, stared at the officer for a few seconds, then scrambled over the guardrail and disappeared into the Ohio River. Later that evening, Another police officer returned to the area after hearing the first officer's encounter, but all he found were scratch marks on the guardrail where the creature had climbed over. Just 2 weeks later, a third police officer, named Mark Matthews, was driving into Loveland when he saw what looked like an injured animal in the road. Matthews got out of his cruiser to remove the animal from the street, but before he could, the creature suddenly jumped up into a crouched position. The officer tried shooting at the creature, but his bullet didn't seem to affect it, as it scuttled over to the guardrail and stepped over it, all the while keeping its eyes fixed on Matthews. The creature that Matthews encountered was almost identical to the creature seen in the previous 2 accounts, with the only difference being that the creature Matthews saw had a tail, while the others did not. The final sighting of a Loveland Frogman took place in mid-August of 2016, when Sam Jacobs and his girlfriend reported seeing a similar-looking creature in Cincinnati while playing Pokemon Go. Even though the couple managed to get video footage of the creature, including this still image, many people were skeptical of what they saw, since the encounter happened in a city 30 minutes away from Loveland. Many people remain doubtful of the Loveland Frogmen claims. Many believe that what people actually saw were just large frogs or lizards, possibly exotic pets that escaped from their owners. This skepticism was reinforced when Mark Matthews retracted his story a few years after his encounter, claiming that what he saw was nothing more than a large exotic lizard that was either an escaped pet or zoo animal, and that he shot at the creature only to help confirm the anonymous officer's previous account. Other skeptics believe that what people claimed were frogmen were just regular frogs resting in a position with only their hind legs touching the ground, which may have made them look bipedal. Despite these theories, Loveland Frogmen have remained popular, as multiple police reports have given the creatures a greater sense of credibility in the eyes of believers. A decent amount of merchandise has been created in the image of the Frogmen, and every March, Loveland hosts a Frogman Festival in honor of these mysterious creatures. Guests can visit different vendors and presenters during the festival, as well as enjoy the costume parade. The Frogmen have also inspired various podcasts and documentaries, as well as a musical titled Hot Damn, It's the Loveland Frog, a link to which can be found in the description. Additionally, the legend of the Loveland Frogmen is a generally popular story in Ohio, as it is a rare example of cryptid lore with a small hint of science fiction. Our final stop in this video is the state of Indiana, which is the home of a reptile like no other, the Beast of Busco. The Beast of Busco is described as a giant snapping turtle, often the size of a dining room table or even a small car, weighing approximately 500 pounds and carrying a shell roughly 4 to 6 feet in diameter. It is said to be shy and elusive in nature, and quietly lurks in Folk Lake near Churubusco, Indiana. The legend officially begins in 1898, when a farmer named Oscar Folk reported seeing an incredibly large turtle living in a 7-acre lake on his property. Folk ultimately decided to leave the creature be, but since his encounter, the Beast of Busco has been affectionately named Oscar by locals, and the lake the creature was first spotted in was dubbed Folk Lake. Following Folk's report, the Beast of Busco remained unseen until the mid-1900s. In July of 1948, 2 fishermen named Ora Blue and Charlie Wilson were out on Folk Lake when they spotted an estimated 500-pound alligator snapping turtle. At the time, the property was owned by another farmer named Gale Harris, and he and others began reporting encounters with the creature as well. Various expeditions were planned to try and get rid of the creature, including draining the lake and using scuba divers and various traps to catch it. But despite the extensive efforts, the beast was never found. As time passed, reports of the creature slowed and eventually stopped. Today, people still speculate over whether or not the creature was real. Some believe that a real alligator snapping turtle was living in the lake, and that the reason why people stopped seeing it was because it was hibernating, while others believe the creature never existed, and that Oscar Folk created the story to stir up some excitement. If that was Folk's intention, then it appears to have worked, as the Beast of Busco has become rather iconic not just in Churubusco, but in the whole state of Indiana. Various turtle-based merchandise has been created in honor of the creature, including the beast being featured in the trading card game MetaZoo Cryptid Nation alongside Maryland's Chessie. Every June, Churubusco celebrates the beast with the Turtle Days Festival, where guests can enjoy a parade, carnival games, and even turtle races. A small concrete turtle statue also decorates the main intersection in the town center. In Decatur, Indiana, the Two Brothers restaurant has a large turtle shell on display, labeled Beast of Busco. Additionally, the creature's legend remains quite popular among Churubusco's residents, and even though it hasn't been seen since the late 1940s, many people continue to believe that the Beast of Busco is still lurking in Lake Folk, waiting to make its presence known once again. What's up everybody? Lone Wolf here. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to tonight's video. In case anyone is interested, all of the various elements used in this video, including pictures, music, sound effects, and stories, will be linked in the description below. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, click the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new video. If anybody has any personal stories or story recommendations for me, or any advice to help improve the channel, there will be links to all of my social media platforms in the description. I'm mostly active on Twitter and on Instagram, but I also have an email, a Discord server, and a TikTok account that you can message me on as well. Until next time, stay spooky. And remember,
the hunt begins when the moon is full.